Hey guys, it's Mike Bosch from the Everyday Ironman Podcast. Hopefully you've noticed that I've started recording video and releasing excerpts here on YouTube to get some more exposure for the incredible athletes that have been kind enough to share their story on my show. After reaching out to a few past guests that were training for specific races, they all agreed to record a pre-race update. First up is Jenna Russell. Jenna and her husband Tyler were guests on episode 49. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend you listen to Jenna and Tyler tell their story in their words, so I will put a link to their episode in the show notes below. All that being said, here is how Jenna is feeling just a few weeks out from Ironman 70.3 Ohio. I know. Okay, Jenna, it's been like 11 weeks since we last spoke. I think Ironman 70.3 Ohio is week after next.
Yep, 2 weeks away.
2 weeks away. How are you feeling? Not your training, but how are you feeling?
I'm really anxious.
You're anxious?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have that little bit of nerves.
Yeah. I feel like I get that way before every race, regardless of, it being a new distance for me and stuff. But yeah, feeling
that's
pretty
healthy.
nervous.
Yeah, that's healthy. I think if you weren't nervous, there would be question. You'd be like, well, why aren't you nervous? Are you not taking this serious enough? Are you not? Does it not mean enough to you? Like all of those things. So I think a certain level of anxiety is healthy. Now, obviously, there's a tipping point where and I'm guilty of it too. We get so consumed with everything has to go perfect that anxiety can be detrimental, right? And so hopefully you're still on that comfortable, this means a lot to you level of anxiety. Okay.
I'm not quite sure where that tipping point is. So
All right. And so we learned on the original episode that you were a school teacher, and we are in the summer. So you're off work right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right,
yes.
So
and it is glorious.
Yeah. So you're dedicated to your children and to training.
Yes. So actually we decided to keep our kids in daycare part-time this summer.
Okay.
So originally we wanted 2 days a week so that way I could do my long workouts in the middle of the week instead of on Saturday. Yeah. So we could kind of keep Saturdays for family. And when we went to daycare, they said, well, we normally like kids to come 3 days. So I was like, okay, twist my arm. There you go. So they're there 3 days. And they love it. So it's really not a big deal. Our 4-year-old Owen every day asks, is it a home day or a school day?
Oh,
and
funny.
Today was actually a home day. So he was pretty excited that he got to stay home and he gets to wear his jammies all day. But then tomorrow he goes to school and
I was going to say probably at that age it's good. It's good for them as well to get around other kids. And sometimes I think there's pros and cons, and that's not what this podcast is about, but there are pros and cons.
True.
Both of my boys, my wife stayed at home and she raised them. And finally, when they got to a certain age, she did the same thing. She put them in a Mother's Day out kind of thing, just so they could get around other kids and learn the social skills. Right. And
exactly.
So that's really good. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is training going?
Training's going well. I think it was just last week that I finally told Tyler, like, I'm kind of getting to that burnt out phase.
Really?
That I was a little like worried that was a problem. And he said, well, because my taper starts this week, that he was saying, that's kind of normal in your last week of like full hard workouts for multiple days, not just, the couple that you have in taper that, and we've been really busy on the weekends that it's just like everything's kind of just hitting all at once.
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody's body handles taper differently, right? And so I think there's certain times, and I think even individually, you may experience it different race to race. There's sometimes where you just welcome that lower training volume. And then there's other times where you're in such a place that you're like, you want to do more, but you're not supposed to do more because you're supposed to go into the race fully rested. And so you're in that awkward.
And that's exactly what Tyler said. Wait and see how this week goes. And then we'll come back and sit and see how you feel again. So I've never had to do a taper. I haven't done a race long enough that required one. So this is the first time kind of figuring that out.
Yeah. So I would definitely, while I'm not your coach, right? I would definitely lean toward the lower volume, give your body the rest and the recovery. You are not going to, I think what I've heard is you're not going to improve your fitness in 2 weeks, but you could get yourself injured, right? You can overtrain.
And that's exactly what Tyler was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to be
careful. It's better to go in with less than go in overtrained and tired where.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask you eventually. So I have my little list of questions, but I was gonna ask
you.
So we'll just jump right. We're just gonna jump to that. Would you recommend your coach at this point? Like, if somebody was in the market for a coach, would you recommend your coach?
Well, interesting. I've had a coach switch since we last met.
What?
Yes.
Tyler's not your coach?
So, no. It was actually this really weird trail of events here. That he was my, coach on Training Peaks and for his dad too. And at some point in the spring, he said, I just feel like I'm not dedicating enough to your guys' training. Why don't we look into professional coaches?
Okay.
And we did. And it was really just too expensive for us. I mean, obviously you pay for what you get, and it's 100% worth all of the money that they're asking for. But, with our budget, we couldn't do it. So I put it off to the side. And then I actually follow the Purple Patch podcast as well.
Okay.
And and I get their emails, their weekly emails, or however often they are. And in one of their weekly emails, they had put out that an athlete was donating amount of money to have a scholarship for their Purple Patch Tri Squad.
Oh, wow.
And so 2 different athletes got it, and you had to fill out this application and say why you wanted to do Purple Patch and why you're time starved, because that's their big push is how to fit training into your life instead of your life into training.
Yep.
And so they call us time starved athletes. And when I had looked into it originally, it was just going to be too expensive. And so I filled out the application and I won. So
get out of here.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I am super grateful to whoever this anonymous athlete was that gave the money for your athletes to do it. So I've been a Purple Patch athlete for probably a month now, not that long, but it's been really nice too, because then there's a whole bunch of coaches in there. They use a different platform than Training Peaks, so that's been interesting to learn too. They use Today's Plan, which I had never heard of until them.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because when you and we would definitely encourage anybody watching the video to go back to the podcast, because we really walk through you and Tyler's story, your backstory, the whole thing.
Right.
I definitely encouraged anybody to do that. But what was it like switching from Tyler, your husband, being your triathlon coach, to somebody else giving you direction? Because you know how in your mind certain things you justify certain things, and so if you have
it's definitely different.
And so if you have a recommendation for training, is Tyler is he that over the shoulder Monday morning quarterback coach now, where he's like, well, that's not how I would have done it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Where I still have him look at the work, especially trying to make sure I'm not putting too many hard workouts back to back kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I have him always look at my week and say, this is what we're doing. And he actually just today was really liking the swim workout that's this week. And so I built it in Garmin and shared it with him.
Nice.
And his biggest critique is that they're very, very, what's the word I want? Complex. He finds that very hard.
Okay.
But he does like a lot of them and is very intrigued by it all. And he's like, maybe this is something I would like to do whenever he's coming back to full-time training.
Yeah.
But I find it weird that I find myself now very different than before. I could explain a lot of why I didn't do a workout to the T or written to the letter because of X, Y, and Z. Where I don't have that ability to just kind of explain myself that I feel like it's made me work a little bit harder of it's going out into the world of purple patch. I don't know who looks at it.
Yeah. There's pros and cons,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. So what about your father-in-law? Is how's he getting ready? Now, I mean, just high level, is he still racing?
So Tyler was going off of, he is still racing, and he is feeling good too. But
good.
Tyler was going off of an online program for both of us originally. And so he's still following that for, he's just putting it into Training Peaks for his dad.
He didn't get the other scholarship for Purple Patch.
No,
that would have been a little suspicious had that happened. But anyway,
yeah,
that's funny. So since we last talked, so it's been 11 weeks. You had, I think, a half marathon that you were going to run. Have you done any events incorporated into your training up to this point, or how are you kind of keeping yourself energized and enthusiastic?
I am definitely a person who needs races on the calendar in order to be motivated. So I did that half marathon at the end of April, and then we did an Olympic in June.
Okay.
And then just over 4th of July weekend, we did a 5K because it worked out that it was my assessment week. So for my run test, I just did a 5K instead of, it was actually our anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So trying to run a 5K with your husband on your anniversary.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Hey, you know what? You spend it together, right? Doing what you love.
Well, we were supposed to, and then he ditched me.
Yeah, as I remember, I think the post went along the lines of he was running with a weighted vest, pushing the stroller, right? Showing off how fast he is or something along those lines, right? Yeah. That's
exactly. Yeah. I was like, because we woke up that morning and I said, will you, I want you to run with me. I'm going to need you to push me. I haven't run a 5K, all out in a while.
Yeah.
I don't really know what my pace is. Can you run with me? And I think he made it 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile. And I could just see him looking back at me are you coming? I said, just leave. Just go. I can't do it.
That's funny. That is too funny. So you've done the half marathon, the Olympic, the 5K, and now you've got Ohio 70.3 in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
What do you have? And I know we talked about it in the opener. You do have some anxiety. Is there anything that when you kind of go through the race day in your head, have you because that's a thing you're supposed to do. You're supposed to visualize the race.
I learned last week, but I need to do that a little bit more.
You're supposed to visualize the swim start and visualize the feel of the water and all that stuff. Is there any one thing, and I don't want to say that you have anxiety, but you're like, I'm still not 100% clear on X.
Is anything the athlete guide, so it's a brand new course is also what's giving me anxiety. It's not in Delaware, Ohio anymore. It's up in Sandusky. So the athlete guide actually just came out last week instead of 2 or 3 weeks ago when it was supposed to. Probably because they're just trying to figure everything out with it being a new venue. And the only thing that I still can't figure out, and I'm in the Ohio Facebook group too.
Okay.
So all of the different participants or, whoever wants to join that group can join it. The one thing that I'm still very confused about is the swim start.
Okay.
Because, the swim is in a shipping canal thing.
Okay.
So or shipping bay, whatever it's called. So it's protected off of Lake Erie, but I don't know. I've seen different posts that it is a pier start.
Okay.
That makes me a little nervous, but the only thing I could see in the athlete guide, which I haven't read thoroughly yet, so I probably should have done that before saying that this is anxiety producing, but I briefly looked at it and it only said it's that self-seated, rolling start. And I'm like, so Tyler thinks there's going to be a boat ramp, but all of these other people are saying that it's a pier start. I'm like, I don't really want to jump off a pier.
Yeah. So I will say I think I've raced Chattanooga since the last time we spoke. It was a pier start. Literally.
How did that go?
It's 6 inches above the water. I mean, it's you just, all you're doing is you're jumping into water that's maybe over your head. It's not like a jump from a high point in the
okay. Because I was like, my goggles are going to come off.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Like...
Now there is a technique, and you may or may not have enough time to practice it. But what I was told, first of all, you want to put one hand on your goggles for sure, no question.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely want to do that. The other thing, another athlete recommend, and it would take a little bit of practice and coordination, is if you, as you're jumping into the water, if you kick with one foot, what it does is it spreads your body mass out. Because what you don't want to do, the absolute worst thing is do like a pencil dive. And then you're going to go deep in the water. So you want to keep your body to the top of the surface as much as you can.
Okay.
Right? Because you're
right. Because that was my other thing. I was like, anytime I've ever jumped in a pool, I pretty much just
touch the bottom,
do a pencil dive. Like,
yeah, because you're not going to. You're likely not going to have anything to push off from. So you're going to be from like a stopping position. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would do: is one hand on my goggles. Okay. Kind of even if you can't do the kick thing, just kind of
just try and spread out.
Exactly. Just a little bit. For sure. Definitely want to make sure you put some no fog on your goggles, right?
So one thing I learned is baby shampoo.
Yeah, I have not tried that yet, and it keeps coming up, and I have yet to try it.
So obviously we have plenty of baby shampoo in our house, so that's what I've been trying.
Boys, that's for sure.
One of the girls in my try group recommended that, and because it doesn't burn her eyes as much as the fog gone does. Yeah. And I'm not one that I remember to do before, like when I'm going to an open water swim or something, to do that and then let it dry before using them. So it's nice that you could use baby shampoo, rinse it off, and then go.
Yeah, the fog goggles just drive me crazy, just absolutely crazy.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so good. So if that's the only thing you're anxious about, I think you're in good shape.
Well, that and the bike. I hate the bike. So, and that's something that we talked a lot about before.
I know, but at least you know you can do the bike. So actually, I'm going to pause there. I'm going to ask you. So you're going into taper. What was the longest swim that you've completed through your training? The longest bike and the longest run? Do you know? Ballpark. You don't have to give me specifics. Just ballpark.
I guess the longest open water swim I've done was the Olympic, which is...
Okay, so you're right in there. So that's a mile.
Almost, yeah. It's very, very close to the 70.3 length. My bike has not been long enough, mainly because I am scared of the road still and getting hit by a car.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
And the clips and the lights and all of that. So I've either relied on Tyler being home, so that way if something happens, then he's an easy call away, which he's traveled a lot lately. So I've just been doing the long rides on the trainer because that's just where I'm more comfortable. So I'd rather do them. So I've done a 3-hour on the trainer, just not outside.
Okay.
And then my longest ride outside was probably like 2.5 that I did with my father-in-law just this weekend, whatever it was. I think we did like 2:15. And he made me go through a lot of very uncomfortable situations. Like we rode through a little downtown that had a lot of lights and a lot of traffic that made me very uncomfortable. And then we went on an overpass, like where you would on-ramp onto a highway, that it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But he was like, and then we got through it. I yelled at him and he was like, this is what you have to do. Like,
well, and unfortunately it doesn't sound like you had the opportunity. I coordinated as much as I could charity rides. And so you have, like I did one this weekend.
We haven't found any.
Yeah.
Well, we do have one that at the end of August, we just found one this weekend.
Yeah. It's
but
unfortunate.
Obviously that's not going to help me before the race, but it'll be at least more experience to have under my belt for whatever is next.
Yeah, because there's some traffic control, at least in the beginning of the race. There's aid stations. You're on course at least with a bunch of other cyclists. So I think the cars are more aware, at least, of bikers during that time period. Yeah, riding solo or in a very small group gives me anxiety, and I'm pretty comfortable on my bike. So
I am just My plan is to do a couple short ones outside over the next 2 weeks here, just to keep going outside and getting that experience.
Okay.
So
and then the run, you did the half marathon.
Yeah, that's been my longest.
Yeah, so you're in good shape. Okay, so you're really setting pretty good for 2 weeks out. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you most likely your natural reaction is going to be just to finish, right? Because that's what everybody says. But what is your goal going into this race, Jenna?
Obviously, just to finish.
I know.
That is what it is. But I would like to finish happy as well. That is something different.
Yeah.
Not only have I never done this, so I have no idea how I'm going to feel at the end.
Yeah.
But I've been struggling with runner's knee. And so if I can not limp across the finish line, that would be nice.
That'd be good. Now,
dial in that nutrition and stuff like that, making sure that I finish happy in that way.
Yeah, I actually have nutrition listed as my question mark, but I'm going to talk about your knee for a second. Do you have a knee brace? Are you KT taping it, or is any of that going to help you? Like,
for a while, I was using patellar tendonitis bands.
Okay.
And then when I went to the orthopedic doctor, I don't have patellar tendonitis like one doctor told me I do.
Okay.
I have something else that I don't remember the medical words for.
Yeah.
But basically my kneecap slides around. And so my IT band is what's causing the knee pain, because apparently it's very common in women athletes, just I guess the way our hips are and the knees, and I don't know. Okay. The way he explained it totally made sense. Okay. So I've been doing physical therapy, and he said I could get KT tape, but when I YouTubed how to do it, it was very complicated.
Yeah.
So I haven't been doing it. And he said it doesn't help everybody. So you could try it and it might work, or you could try it and it might not work.
Yeah.
So I actually have KT tape, but I couldn't figure out how to put it on. So I've just been going without it.
I think I've KT taped just about every part of my body. At one point,
really?
I think it was before Waco. Somebody asked me how I was feeling. I was like, I'm literally held together with prayer and KT tape. Like, that's the only thing that's keeping me together at that point. Well, we hope that your knee doesn't slide around too much on race day. So what about, before we close out, what about nutrition? How's your nutrition plan?
It's kind of just a hodgepodge at this point. I feel like it's something I didn't really focus on until like too late in the game. So I'm now just winging it, essentially.
Okay. Hey, that's how I did it for the longest period of time. So there's no shame in that. Yeah. I mean,
so I've got a couple on the Olympic. I used goos, and I do not like their consistency at all.
It's acquired. It's an acquired thing. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. So I got they're called e-gels, and they're through Crank Sports, and they're electrolyte and whatever goo is. All in one little packet, and they're 150 calories, so I don't have to take them quite as often.
Gotcha.
And their flavors are really yummy, so I like that way better than the goo.
Yeah.
And then I just got some Precision Hydration.
Okay.
Because Purple Patch is partnered with them, so I got a little bit of a discount. Yeah. And so I'm kind of just teetering between those to figure out which ones work the best. So which I don't really know.
You got a little bit of a plan. It's not a not plan, right? So that's a good
It's not a not plan.
Yeah.
It's just
the
most honed in plan either.
I can only consume the salted caramel goo. That's the only flavor I can handle. And the consistency is definitely, I remember the first time I put that in my mouth, I was like,
No. The e-gel ones are much thinner. So, and I tried a couple of the other brands. One starts with an H, Huma, something like that. Yeah. And it's like really thin, but I didn't like the taste of it. So,
wow.
I don't know if it was just the flavor I picked or if they have better flavors. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know if thinner would help me at all. I don't know. But anyway.
I don't know.
Jenna, it was I was really looking forward to hearing how you're doing. It sounds like you got a good plan. You've done some good training. You're in a good space. I know that you have started an Instagram account dedicated to documenting
after our podcast.
Yep. So we would highly recommend following you, and it's at A Mom Daring to Try. Right. So that's on Instagram. So definitely follow Jenna. I will be tracking you on race day for sure.
Thanks.
There is just something about having all those little things go off all weekend long. It gives you that.
So I tracked you in your Chattanooga race, so
it's fun. It's fun, and so I definitely will be looking forward to when your bib number is posted and we can load you in our tracker. So we wish you all the success, thank you,
and
safety on the course, and I hope to catch up with you again soon.
Yeah.